Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This video of Mass Make March is going to be just a slightly bit different. I will absolutely show a mass make, but I've been asked a couple questions that I want to address quickly in the beginning because some of it leads to the mass make and what we're going to be doing. So for the file folder journal, this is kind of where I am at this point. This isn't technically a file folder journal, but I had mentioned that I do it one of two ways. I either leave the insert unattached to the base and the covers until I'm done and then I put it in, or I do what I've done here and I glue exactly where I said. I glued my insert into my base and I let that dry, and then I glued the front inside cover and the back inside cover down. So I'm at this point, right? And then I have a spine cover. That's this piece right here. I glued that down to the outside of the spine, and then I inked the edges. So now it's ready for the final gluing. And because I want to make the front a tuck, I want to be able to do a tuck right in here. What I'll do is I will glue this piece down, this spine piece. I'll glue that down, and then I'll glue all along here, just like I would most pockets. And that will give me a nice firm cover, nice firm adhesion, but I'll still have a tuck spot on the front. I could do the exact same thing in the back and glue the spine hinge down and then glue again 3 sides and glue this down like this and have a tuck spot here. Or I could glue 1, 2, and 3 and have a tuck spot at the top. Now, I probably wouldn't do that because of the way I made this. I would have a tuck spot in the back, but honestly, because I generally don't tuck things in the back, I probably wouldn't do that. I could also put a belly band or something else there if I wanted to. So that is the construction of the file folder journal. All the pages and inserts are in. The next step is just whatever embellishment or decoration or pockets or such that I want to put on the actual pages, which leads me to this Mass Make March. One of the questions that I've been asked is about my ephemera makes, my mass makes storage. And I've changed it up over time, and I'm going to try to zoom out and see if actually I'm trying to lift the camera up and see if I can make this work a little bit better so you can see it. Okay, so I use these old enamelware bins, and I used to generally just have the made pieces sorted by category into a bin of some sort, whether it's an old sewing machine drawer or a wooden box or whatever storage system. It can be plastic. But the problem I had with that is the variety of sizes of the makes. Sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller, and I found that they would get bent or twisted or drop down at the bottom, and it was hard for me to keep track of what I had, how much of what I had. So I switched, and this is a combination of Scrapbuster items from the Scrapbuster journals and other things that I make. And all of these that I've got listed here, and I'll put it down afterwards, all of these are things that I make with scraps. So these aren't necessarily things that I would put like the bigger pieces, like in flips, flaps, and folds, or larger full page pieces so much. These are the pieces that I generally make from scraps, which is generally what I use with my mass makes. Not always, but as a general rule. And people asked how I do that, what the categories are. On the last video, and I'll try to remember to link it below, I use these 6x9 ephemera holders, plastic sleeves, what have you, that I get on Amazon. Simply because no matter what size my pieces are, I rarely ever make anything larger than 6x9 pre-make. I'll make things larger than that for a journal, but not for my mass makes because I want a variety of sizes. So these 6x9 envelopes will hold most everything, and they allow me to store things in alphabetical order, and they obviously I don't have very many borders, so that would be something I could certainly make. Some of them I have like 5 or 6 or 7 envelopes for because I make a lot of that particular item, like journaling cards maybe, or tags or that type of thing. But this system works really well for me. It allows me to see exactly what I have, and if I know I'm putting a journal together and I want a specific piece, so maybe I want a greeting card to put in the front of a journal that I'm giving, selling or giving or what have you. So I can write a note on this journaling card, a greeting card, and tuck it into the journal. So that's how I store these pieces, and I do it alphabetically, F, G. That's a Gale fold down. Greeting cards too. So I have a couple of greeting cards. And that doesn't mean that they can't be used as something else, but they're designed like a greeting card would be. And so I've got 2 full bins of ephemera like this. Well, they're not quite full. I have room for a little bit more, but I have them sorted that way. So I've got this one and I've got this one. Now, sometimes I'll put more than one type item in one of these folders. For example, some of these, I honestly don't really know what a good name for them would be. Obviously, slide mounts, that's pretty easy and pretty self-explanatory. Those are slide mounts. Playing cards, square fold journaling, these are just square fold pieces. And so those are pretty obvious, but some other ones are not as much. And so I keep, at least when I'm making and such, or when I'm putting them in journals, I make sure I keep at least one of any unique item, so that if I forget what it is that I've called it, because some of the names may not make a lot of sense, I keep at least one so I can make more, like tuxedo pockets. Okay, these are fold over, fold back type pockets, and I keep a sample or 2 in there so that I know, oh yeah, tuxedo pockets, that's right, that's what these are. Now, somebody else may call them something else, but that's simply what I call them. 2-piece pockets, that means 2 pieces are assembled together and to make pockets. Woven ladder pockets, wraparound sides, that means it wraps around the side of a page as opposed to over the top. Tracy 2-side. And then every once in a while I have a miscellaneous thing that doesn't really have it doesn't really fit a certain category. Like this is based on that Tim Holtz slot die, right, where you just tuck things in. Well, I could put Tim Holtz slot die, but there's only one of these, and it's just kind of a random make. This is a paper bag with a tag and a pocket in the front, so it's just a random make. I don't have a whole slew of those things. So I've got also a miscellaneous category too. But the category that I'm going to work on today, and it's not even because it's low, but more because it's, sorry, I wanted to move that back, more because it's something I'm going to be working on as a project. Let's see if I can move this down now, make it a little easier to see. A project I wanted to make for this journal, the file folder journal, and it's one that's kind of an offshoot of some of the others. So, well, a while back, sometime last year, I believe, I did random rectangles and more random rectangles, and I also did a video using leftover digital pieces. Because like most people, when I get a digital kit, a lot of times I'll have leftover pages, and you know, that is just a gazillion of the full sheet leftover pages, or ones that didn't print well, or ones that I just didn't need for a project. So I've got these, and sometimes I ask myself, well, how can I use them? Most of the time they're thin paper rather than cardstock, and most of the time they're single-sided. Now every once in a while I'll do a 2-sided one, or you know, print it on both sides, or it'll be on cardstock, but most of these are, I shouldn't say standard copy paper, because I don't use standard copy paper. I use Epson copy paper, which is just a little bit, it gives me a little bit better print quality. But if you use regular copy paper, and then like this one, I just cut them in half, because for what I'm doing here, a full page is too big. So this is just Epson copy paper, and then a digital image. I believe this is Tracy Fox's Daffodils and Daisies kit. And I was focusing on the daffodils, but I really love the daisies too. So I took this piece of paper and I cut it in half. And so the 2 that I'm showing you today are variations on ones I've shown before. And they're quick, they're easy, there's nothing fancy about them. They're great for a beginner or somebody who's been doing this a long time. I'm leaving this like this for those who will ask if they can take a screenshot. Those are the categories that I have in my 2 ephemera makes bins. There are a lot more pieces you can make, of course, but those are the ones that I have broken it down into. Those are the categories. So there you go, there's that for those who want it. All right, so this this folder is fold over pockets, and there's a lot of ways to make fold over pockets. I call them two-fold pockets, top fold pockets, side fold pockets. This is what I call a fold over pocket. Oh, let's see, this one's got a transparency on it. There's a pocket in the back, and there's a pocket on the side here. I'll just grab this tag. It doesn't match, but that's okay. There's a pocket here and a pocket here. And I've shown how to make something similar to these before, but I'm going to show you again today because it's super quick and super easy. This is another one that I absolutely love to make. Just a fold over here, but it also has a pocket in the back, which, you know, is kind of a nice option. So you've got a double-sided pocket. And more of these. And this is, I don't even know why that one's in here. This is kind of a coin envelope pocket. So there's a bunch of pockets, a bunch of different ways in here. You know, like I said, coin envelope. This one would probably be more of a coin envelope. So maybe I put it in the wrong spot. But these are different options with pockets. But the two we're going, here, let me put these back. The two I'm going to focus on today are these. And this is the mass make. I haven't had much opportunity to do mass make March like I'd have liked, but I'm grateful for the chance I have now. So the first one that we're going to make is really basic, and it's just a variation with a really wide option, right? You can see down there, that's a really wide option of one I've made before. It's just a little bit different, which is why I'm going to show it. If you're needing a big, thick space, this one's got a big, thick, wide space that you can use, and it still has a pocket on the front. And it uses all of a rectangular sheet. So this is a standard 8.5 by 11 turned on its side or turned horizontally, and then I've just cut it. You can cut it exactly in half. The beauty is whether you're using A4 or 8.5 by 11, or you've got something that's a little shorter, a little longer, a little wider, it really doesn't matter. You can use any rectangular piece for this project. It'll just adjust the size of your completed piece. So it's got a side tuck pocket here and a really big pocket in the back, which is, you know, if you're wanting to put a booklet or something larger in there or a stack of photos, this is a great option because 4x6 photos will fit in these beautifully. So we're going to make that one. And then the other one is a variation on a fold over pocket. And we've made lots of these in the past, but the one that I'm going to focus on today is kind of a handy little guy. It's got one of these, I just drew a blank on it. There's a nice lady who created these lift up corners. So it's got a little lift up corner for writing space. You can put a notepad in there or leave it blank. And then it's got these pieces in it. And this is just from a one-sided piece of digital image. And you could use cardstock, you could use anything. I find that copy paper works a little better for this because of the bulk of the folds, but you can use whatever you want. This one, I cut a little bit off of it to make a writing tuck spot. One of the scraps that we had left over, I used to make a tab top for a notepad. And then I used the last little bit of it to make a journal or a journaling tag. So all of those pieces came from this. It's a little narrower than some of the others, but I was able to put a bunch of different pieces into that pocket. And the beauty of this pocket is it's the width from edge to edge, which is one of the reasons we're going to do it. Here's a variation. This is the one I made. So rather than closing over just this corner flap, it closed over the whole thing. So I extended the flap a little bit longer. Does the same thing, lifts up for journaling, holds this in place, and I've got a pocket in the back. Maybe, there you go. Pocket all the way in the back, full size, and then I can tuck this down part way if I want, just in the crease fold, or I can tuck it all the way in the whole thing. Either way, it'll work just fine. So that's same idea here. Okay, pocket in the back with a little bit of a notepad, Velcro closure, lift up journaling spot. And please don't think that I'm taking credit for creating these. They're just variations of things that have been around for a long time. Has somebody else done the exact same thing? Sure, probably. But again, these are just a kind of a little bit different way to do it. So I'll show you how to make these two. And I'll do this one first, and then I'll do that one second. So, okay, before I do that, before I forget, because I'm me and I will forget, I am taking part in Crafting a Garden Story, what they're calling #Journal Jigsaw, with Reach and Bella Crafts. and she's done an absolutely phenomenal job. It's been going on since March 15th. My day is April 6th, and that's coming up for me, and I'm excited about that. And somebody had asked about books. They liked it when I shared my books that I've been reading. 3 that I have recently finished are First Lie Wins. It was very different for me, but I truly enjoyed it. It was excellent, and I would recommend it. Realistic fiction, I guess, is the category or the genre, and that's by Ashley Elston. That was excellent. The Flight Girls, historical fiction, is about women flyers in World War II. That was phenomenal, by Noelle Salazar. And I just today finished one that was very, very different for me. Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult. She has a co-writer with it. And it was, like I said, very different for me, but I thought it was extremely well written, and it was certainly worth reading or listening to. So there you go on that. All right, let me move on with this. Okay, so I've got a scrap or a strip of paper here. First thing I like to do, because I want to make a widening piece for the bottom, I cut off a scrap, maybe an inch. So this is 8.5 by 11-ish, and I'll cut off maybe an inch. It may not be an exact inch, so let's see. That's, you know, it's not quite an inch, but I cut off about an inch. So I've got this piece right here. Now I'm going to decide which piece I want to have on the front. You can fold it to the right or the left. You can have a wide tuck or you can have a narrow tuck. It just depends on the image on your paper, really, and what you're looking for and what you need. So looking at these images, I really like the daisies. The daisies are pretty, and for the most part, this beautiful daisy is going to be in the back. So maybe I wouldn't glue this one like this. I wouldn't necessarily glue this in my journal. Maybe I'd put a hinge or something right here so that I could flip it out like this and I could enjoy the beauty of both sides. Personal preference, you can use it either way. So I'm going to look at this and think, do I want this as my front cover? It's not that, I mean, it's not ugly by any means, but it's not all that pretty or that exciting. So I'm going to take this one edge, and you can score it if you choose, but I generally just fold it over. Just fold it over like this. And this is going to be my inside edge that doesn't show. Then my scrap that I've cut off, I'll put it down this way so you can see it. I use that as kind of my guideline, because this is how deep I am going to make the pocket, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. And it doesn't have to be a perfect mark. You can, if you can see there, I've moved it just to the right, but that's my guide of about where I'm going to score it or fold it. And you can use a scoreboard or you can fold, completely up to you. So I'm going to score it right about there. Don't even know what the measurement is, doesn't matter. So I'm going to score it there. And I'm going to fold that over. And then this piece is going to be my top. Now that's not a very big tuck, right? This isn't going to be a very big tuck thing. So maybe I would change it a little bit. And maybe I don't necessarily love where I folded the daisy. So I'm going to re-angle it and I'm going to fold it back here. It's not going to show because I didn't fold it down super sharp here, and this is now going to be in the back. And because of the pattern, once I've put everything together, you're not going to see it. That little bit of a crease right there won't even show. Solid paper, it might show a little bit more, but with this pattern paper, it's never going to show. So I'm going to use this as my guideline, and then I'll have to trim my little gusset piece or tuck piece down. I'm going to use this as my guideline, and I'm going to make it just slightly bigger, but not a lot. And I'm going to score that just for the sake of ease. And I'm going to fold this over. And I like that because most of this really pretty daisy shows. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to fold over the edge. I could ink it and leave it just like this, but I find that I want just a little more sturdy surface, a little more stability. So I fold it over, and I often sew it because that's my preference. You don't have to. And on this case, I'm not going to. I'm just going to fold it over. And in this case, I will glue this piece down since I'm not going to sew it. And did I fold it straight? Straight-ish. And so that I can use this later on, I will ink the edge. Most edges are easy to ink later on. This particular edge is not, so I'm going to do it now. And same thing on the bottom. Okay. The rest I can ink later. All right, so I've got this folded over. I've got this folded over. I am not going to glue the inside pocket yet, okay? This piece that's going to be my edge that I'm going to use for a tuck, I want to glue that down now. If you're not folding that edge, then you don't need to worry about it, but I want to glue this piece down now because I'm gluing it to itself. And again, that's just to make it a little bit stronger because this is slightly thicker copy paper. All right, so I've glued that down, and this is what my profile is going to look like. This will be the top. Now I also generally ink, and I'll do this later, but I ink the inside edge a little bit because when you open the pocket, it shows, right? And I didn't coffee dye the back or print this on coffee dyed paper so that that inked edge would show. Then I'm going to take this piece that I trimmed off, I'm going to fold it in half. And because I made it a little bit smaller, I have to trim it. I mean, I refolded my page, making my page a little bit smaller, so I need to trim this. It doesn't have to fit perfectly. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller, and there we go. Now, I've folded this in half. I am going to glue, I've got pattern side out so that the pattern shows a little bit, not that it'll show much, but a little bit. So I'm going to glue one edge of my two edges where I folded it, kind of like bias tape, I guess. And I am going to match this up with the bottom of my paper. Now, some people will do it on the back flap. I prefer it on the front flap. Personal preference. I don't think it really matters much one way or the other. And I'm going to glue that down to the bottom. See, so you can see it's pretty flush. If it's not perfect, it's going to get inked, so it won't show. Now, right here, these two overlap a little bit, right? Where I've got the fold here and the fold here that's going to fold up. So what I generally do is just this. I'll take off this corner so they don't get in each other's way. And I'll take this corner off. I'll do the same thing over there, just so that it doesn't get in the way when I'm folding things down. All right, now I'm going to fold both of these pieces down, and I'm going to put glue along this. It's going to be the inside edge, but not the inside of this fold. It's the top of the edge, on the top of the edge on both of them, because that's going to allow me the flexibility with my gusset or my pocket. So I'm going to put glue here, and I can ink at this later on if I choose to. Well, when I choose to. And I'm going to put glue here. Now you notice on this one, I did not take off this top corner. I didn't. You can or not, it's completely up to you, but it's not going to show and it doesn't impede anything, so I just feel like it's not really necessary. And I'm going to push this down, making my first pocket. So I've got a full width of my piece pocket, and it's a nice big deep pocket. Those gussets that I made with the folded flap and the piece that I put on the bottom allow me to not glue it next to itself, and that allows the full width and full length pocket, which is what I wanted here, because I can put as much or as little as I want into it. And then with this piece, all I'm going to do is glue the top. And you know what, truthfully, I find that the white edge shows a little bit, so I'm just going to take the very tip of that white edge off, and the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to take the tip of the ink edge off, or the white edge off, and I'm going to glue the top and the bottom side tuck pocket. Just like that. And again, just a variation on a very, very common simple pocket. And I use the entire piece, that entire rectangular section. So when it's all said and done and it's all inked, let me grab a tag. I've got a side, this one would be a side tuck opening on the left. I've got a side tuck and I have a full back pocket. Super simple, super quick, absolutely great way to use up scrap or leftover digitals. Of course, you can embellish it further. You can add Tracy labels, you can add lace, ribbon, blah, blah, blah. You can decorate it up or down as much as you want. But as a base, this is a super quick and easy base. You can do what I did and sew just the edge, but you certainly don't have to. So there is option number one. Option number 2 is also very simple, but it's got just a few more, I don't know, tricks. That's not even the right word. And that's this one here. I like this closure because it allows an extra journaling spot. You don't have to put the closure, of course. You can glue down both pieces. Like this one, I glued down both pieces because I didn't want a lift up spot. But the others, I really like that lift up spot option. So that's what I'm going to show you. All right. This time, rather than putting the paper down, I'm going to put the paper up. I find it a little bit easier to score it, but you absolutely don't have to. You want to fold this in about thirds, and it does not have to be perfect, but about thirds. Right? Just about like this. And then you do want it to be mostly straight. Mostly straight helps things a lot. So I'll fold it here and I'll fold it here. Did you notice no measurement whatsoever? All right, just in about thirds. Okay, so it looks like this. And it doesn't matter if you fold the right side first or the left side first. Truly doesn't make a difference. I generally, as you can see, I generally tend to open them to the right, but you can open them to the left. Let's see if I can. It's just a habit because I'm right-handed. So the way you do this, so it's folded with the pattern on the inside. Then I am going to take the top, left or right, whichever corner, and fold it all the way back. So I've got them folded. I'm going to take the top right or left, whichever I'm starting with, and fold it all the way back and onto itself so that the pattern is now showing. And then I'm going to crease that all the way down. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other corner. I'm going to take the top, in this case, right corner, it's folded down, and I'm going to fold it back on itself until it's flush with the right side of my fold, where I've got one of my 2 creases. And it looks like this, okay? And you can see there's this section at the bottom that's not colored. You could leave it like this if you want and put a piece of lace there, and great. But what I did and the way I created this is, with it all folded like this, I used that as my guide and I cut off the quote-unquote white spot on the bottom. So it looks like this. And in this case, because I wanted to, oh, you can see I would have to cut down a little bit more because I folded this side first. Maybe that's why I do it this way. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You can have it fold whichever way you want. All right, so I've got this piece. Now I have these 3 sections right here that are the leftover bit from the bottom. And what I do is I cut off one, either the right or the left, because remember it's folded into thirds, and I'll cut off either the right or the left. And in this case, I'll cut off here because I get a little bit of that daisy. And then that is going to be the piece that I use on the top of my notepad. That's my fold over piece that I use. You can glue it, you can sew it, you can staple it, you get to pick. That's the top piece of my notepad. And then this section, I'm going to fold it back on itself so I have a pattern on both sides, front and back. Just folding it back on itself, and I'm going to glue that. And if for some reason you don't glue it perfectly straight, because Lord knows that happens sometimes, let's just say I didn't line everything up. Okay, and I've got a little bit more white on one side than the other. That's all right. Your size on this doesn't matter so much. You just want it big enough to fit your Velcro if you're going to use a Velcro closure. So you can trim a little bit off. Let's just say I didn't cut it straight or I didn't fold it straight. I just trim a little bit off and problem solved. Same thing over here. I didn't trim it perfectly straight on that side, or I didn't fold it perfectly straight. So I'll trim a little bit of off there and a little bit off here. And even well, as I'm not a scrap, I'm a scrap person. I like using scraps. I will even throw that away. Okay. So now I have my piece that is going to work as my fold. I am going to ink this now so that I can glue it on. Sorry for the inks, but I want to be able to use this because I really like this pretty paper. So I'm going to ink. It's just way easier to ink this before you glue it down. And I just use small Velcro dots. You certainly don't have to. You can use a paper clip if you want to. So I've inked mostly the front and the back of that. I'm going to move the scoreboard. I don't need it. All right. This is going to be my journaling spot because of the way I folded it, or I could make this my journaling spot, either way. But you know what, just to be different, let's make this the top, and I'm going to trim off a tiny bit more so that there's no white showing at the bottom. And yes, I will, actually a lot of times I do save these because I like to do skinny strips pieces, so I probably would save that, to be honest. All right, I'm going to fold it on the left this side, this time. So this is going to be my top piece. This is going to be my under piece. And I am going to just glue this closed. You could have a double tuck if you want, or a double flip up if you wanted to. But I don't. I just want one. So I'm going to glue that. I glued, or I folded it over to itself. And now I'm going to ink this edge. Okay. And I'm going to put glue. So on my right-handed triangle on this one, I'm going to glue this down, just gluing the very, very bottom of this. All right, and that part is done. Now I am going to ink this edge and this edge, just because I don't want that white to peek through. I'm going to ink this inside edge there, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the outside. Ink that edge, and I'm going to ink the bottom. Now, when I'm ready to lift it up and use it as a journaling spot, I'll also ink all the way around. I don't have to do that now though. So I'll ink all the way around the edge. So here is my completed piece. I'm going to glue on the left-hand side triangle. I'm going to glue just the very bottom of that. And lay that down flat and glue it. Now remember, this piece is going to lift up, so I'm not gluing that down. I'll ink this edge and ink all the way around that. Okay, and then it's inked, so I can use it. And then later on I'll go around and ink all the way around. All right, so here is this piece. This is my lift up journaling. This is my back pocket, and then my tuck on the top. Okay, now this piece right here that we folded over, I want this to be my closure, and I can decide, do I want it to stop here, or do I want it to go all the way across? Oh, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't think it really matters. So you can see here I made it go all the way across, and these two, it gives me more tuck room if I only do a partial. So I'll do a partial on this. And I can decide which is up, which is down. I actually kind of like it with the daisy facing that way as opposed to this. So I'll flip it like this, and I'm going to ink this edge because that will show that is my closure. And grab a little thin Velcro dot. And I usually store these together because that way I'm guaranteed, the top and the bottom, that way I'm guaranteed that they will line up mostly. I put a very thin dot of glue on the edge of my hinge, and I'll lay that down. Then I will line it up where I want it and put a tiny bit of glue on that top piece. You can see there, I just used a little bit, and sure, that's a good spot. I'm going to put this right here. You can move it over as far or back as far as you want. You get to choose. And then when I have it in place, see how it wiggles here because it's Velcro? I want to make it mostly straight, and then I'll wrap it around the edge of my page, and I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to glue this down. And once you've glued it in place, you have a little bit of wiggle room, but I tried to make sure I'm looking on the front so that, because you can see how easy it would be to make it off straight. And I don't really want this to be off straight. I want it to be mostly straight. So I'm going to glue that down. And there, and I'm going to wait till this dries completely, but there is my little pocket. The way I make these fold over top pieces, this is personal preference. You certainly don't have to do this. You can put a tag, you can put a journaling card, you can put anything you want in that pocket. But this is a way I don't have this leftover scrap. I use the entire piece other than any smidgens that you may cut and throw away. So I'm inking around all those edges. I'm going to fold this in half. And it doesn't have to be perfect because one's going to be on the front, one's going to be on the back, won't show. So you can see I didn't fold it. If I'd scored it, it would have been perfectly matched up. But like I said, it's not going to show, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to use my scrap paper bin. And I purchased some of these old note. You can see here the old notepad insert paper, lined paper. Love using these in my journals. I think I got this entire set for $1 or something, and love it because it's already discolored for me or recolored. And then I use 3 of these because that to me makes a good thickness. And then I will fold it in half because of the size it is and that it fits in here well that way. Fold it in half, and I will glue this piece that I've just created on just a light bit of glue, because I generally sew them. Light bit of glue, and I'll put it right over the top. Just like that. Okay, and then I can sew it later on. You can see it's just a little bit too big, so I will trim it. I think I'm in frame there. I'll trim it down, and I didn't fold it perfectly straight, so I'll trim that, and I'll trim it here. And again, this is just the scraps that I'm tossing because I won't probably use those. I save a lot of my scraps, but I've gotten to the point where I recognize what I will and won't use. Then I can either staple this or I can sew it. I generally tend to sew it because I like the way it looks, but for the sake of ease, let's just staple this. And this is a standard stapler. This isn't even the Tim Holtz stapler. You can use the tiny attacher if you want. I just stapled, and this is ready to tuck in here. Maybe, there we go. Tuck in here as a notepad. All right, and that is the second piece. So one piece of standard digital paper or printed paper, and you get 2 cool pieces to use in your journals or to build up your stash. Oh, I know, I did have a question. Okay, sorry, I'm almost done. Truth. One person asked me, here, I'll use this one just for the sake of ease. Somebody asked a question about a page that I had put in Junk Journal January 2023, I think. Whoops, let me put this in before it, there we go. I think it was, it's this book here, and I think it was this page that she asked about, the angled page. Yes, it was. How I made this angled page. Well, this book is made with hinges, so the page was just a fold over, and it hinged. So that, I think that's what she wanted to know, or maybe she wanted to know how I did this piece. I'm not 100% sure. She asked how I made the fold over page. So let me show that super quick. So this book is a hinge book, right? So I folded my page bit in half. I'll just use that pretty daffodil. Folded my page bit in half. And because this is a hinge system, this piece would go inside here into my journal, because all of the pages in here are hinge bases. That's just the nature of it. So when I was done and I was ready to attach it, I would glue it onto that hinge. And when it was still in this state, where it hadn't been glued together yet, that centerpiece hadn't been created, I just laid it at an angle. That one uses lace, but whatever angle I want, and then I save this bit, and that creates the angled page, if that's what she was asking. And then it would just come right here, and this would be the hinge. Now, the piece that I put in here, it's 2 pieces really. This journaling space, this journaling piece, right, is, so if this is glued in, this journaling piece was angled over the top like this, kind of like this, but it was, so I use this as my measurement guide, my angle guide, and then instead of cutting it, my journaling piece at an angle like this, it just cut it straight down. So I've got the angle that I need, and I've got one straight side, right? And then the other one, I just cut it straight down. So I've got the right angle for the journaling spot. Then the piece that I put in behind it, right? This is just a fold over piece of note card, right? The piece I've got behind it. When I glued, oops, well, that's going to come off. That's no good. When I put this piece on here, I didn't glue it all the way down. I only glued it partially down onto my card. So I just folded over a piece of cardstock, and I didn't use mounting foam. I glued part of it down. So part of it sticks up, part of it comes out, part of it goes down. So I've got my journaling card in here. I've got my page here. And when I tuck this piece in the middle, it allows the top to drape over the journaling card. I think that's what she wanted to know. And then I just happened to put a little charm on this. I think that's what she was wanting. That's how I created that. And that's what gives it that look. See, like that. Hope that was helpful. As always, if you've got any questions, I will do my best to answer them soon. I've got lots more Mass Make March, but not a lot of March to get it done in, so some will probably carry over into April. And I'm not going to decorate this entire journal online because there's just no need. A lot of it you've already seen before in other mass makes or other videos or how-tos or scrapbuster items. But I will show, like, if there's something unique or different, maybe I'll decorate a couple pages with you, show you what I did, or if I've done anything slightly different, and I will show you the completed journal when it's all said and done. So I hope that helps. Thank you as always for watching. I hope you're enjoying your creative process. Take care and happy creating.